This is the story of Somaliland's democracy, a remarkable journey defined by resilience, progress, and hope. Rising from the ashes of civil war in 1991, Somaliland built a political system rooted in peace, participation, and accountability. Over 3 decades, it has conducted regular elections, achieved the peaceful transfer of power, and nurtured growing political inclusivity. Somaliland now stands as the first country in East Africa, outpacing even Kenya in civil and political rights, as recognized by the American Freedom House's 2022 report. This achievement highlights Somaliland's unwavering commitment to individual freedoms and the rule of law, setting a high standard for governance in the Horn of Africa. As November 13, 2024 approaches, Somaliland prepares for its most ambitious yet a milestone where presidential and party elections will be held simultaneously. This bold move is intended to consolidate Somaliland's democracy, streamline governance, and reinforce the nation's democratic foundations. Success here would not just solidify Somaliland's democratic credentials, but also bolster its case for global recognition, showing that good governance is not dependent on external support, but on the strengths of the people and their institutions.
It's important when you are building something for yourself, setting up a foundation, to do it on your own, because you're trying to create something from the grassroots. And if you get support from people who are not within, the stakeholders of what's actually is getting built, it's more likely that will be, it will crumble, And a good evidence is what's happening in Somalia. Somaliland, fortunately, have seen, the benefits of bringing people together, people of Somaliland, especially traditional leaders and politicians and, the academics as well. And discuss about how do we move on? How do we create something that's different to what we have fought against? How do we give power back to our people? How do we, have a democratic system of letting the people elect who they want? And if you let that type of discussions and process being infiltrated or influenced by people who are not the immediate stakeholders of that system, then you tend to actually have problems in the long run. And that's, I think, the problem in Somalia. They let their systems, their traditions, their desires and wishes of the people influenced by foreign agents. And the foreign agents are not thinking about what you want and what is your feeling and what's your tradition, but they want to impose their own wishes and their own traditions. And that's how Somalia got it wrong and Somaliland got it right.
The state building project of Somaliland is a bottom-up approach. It's a home ground. It's one which is enshrined with its culture and its history. And I think because of that indigenous approach of the state building project in Somaliland and the ownership of that project itself is the one which makes it different from Somaliland from the rest of other African countries who are more kind of in a context of post-conflict situations. And when the central government of Somalia collapsed and Somaliland regained its independence, the first thing Somaliland did was to make sure that stability and peace prevails in all the regions of Somalia. And that starts with the reconciliation, what we call it social reconciliation as well as a political reconciliation. In order to have a successful state building project, you need to have a stable society. And in order to have a stable society, you need to have a reconciliation, a kind of an inclusive process of reconciliation, where different actors, players, clans, interests come together, and then they forge a new kind of a way of life. And that's why it has been successful. And that's why it has become not only successful, but also democratic.
Number one, the factors responsible for the democratic activities here was simply because of the the elderly system of government. Now, people of Somaliland, they repose the leadership to the elderly people, and that has been the factor helping the democratic activities here. There was never anything like, the elders are going this way and the people are going the other way. So the clan system is one of the factors helping the democratic system in this part of the world. And the decision is collectively made by these clan elders, which is in some way helping the system to grow democratically. And it has been one thing that has been helping this society for a very long time. So there hasn't been any, how do I say it, some sort of, disarray where people want this and the elders want the other things. So the clan elder system of government is really one big factor that is really helping the people of Somaliland to grow politically and democratically.
In 1991, while Somalia was engulfed in conflict, Somaliland declared its independence, reviving the former British protectorate. The Somali National Movement, the SNM, unlike many other liberation movements in Africa, hand over power to civilians, setting the stage for inclusive governance. This rare act of humility created a culture of dialogue, reconciliation, and democracy that remains the foundation of Somaliland's political system to this day.
I think the Somali National Movement leaders, or the freedom fighters, when they left the Mohamed Siad Barre regime, their aim was not to seek to replace him or to gain power in that fashion, but rather they were fighting against the Mohamed Siad Barre regime because they wanted something better for the people, for the people of both Somaliland and Somalia. They wanted to replace him with better systems. They wanted to replace him with more liberal, democratic system of governing.
SNM, which was a struggle movement against the dictatorship of Siad Barre, was formed to fight against a dictatorship. And the whole objective of SNM was to get rid of Siad Barre. And in accordance with their constitution, they put in an article which states that if SNM win the war against Siad Barre, then they will allow civilian rule to come back to Somaliland. So that was the whole idea about SNM. So I think there was no appetite of SNM to just get rid of Siad Barre and then for them to become the new Siad Barre. That's why they said, we have to be more democratic. So they fought for a kind of a more democratic ideals. And I think that's what SNM makes different from other freedom fighters, like those who fought in Ethiopia or elsewhere in the region.
These are people launching a jihad against oppression. They were launching jihad against inequality. They were launching jihad against what they viewed as inappropriate, as something that is very hostile to the people of the Somali back then. And when they launched the movement, one of the things they first addressed was a deliberate clan cleansing, or maybe a clan targeting, which is back then the government of Siad Barre. There were so many policies that were directed towards a particular clan in the northern Somalia. And when I said northern Somalia, I'm actually referring to the Somaliland today. So why, and the factors why they want the power to the people, was because they never wanted a government that is imposing on people. They never wanted a government that is dictatorial in nature. They never wanted a government that is being controlled as puppeteering of the external factors. So what they wanted was a kind of government that is democratic enough to treat every other person, every other Somali people, as equal.
However, the journey towards democracy has not been without its setbacks. Elections are often delayed and rarely held on time due to various circumstances. And clan-based politics remain deeply entrenched, influencing both party structures and voter behavior. This has complicated efforts to foster policy-driven competition, as political loyalty is often shaped by tribal affiliations. Women's participation in politics remains limited, with deeply rooted cultural norms hindering their access to the leadership roles.
runtii haweenka Jamhuuriyadda Somaliland waqti xaadirkan doorashada Somaliland ka socota waxaad arkaysaa golayaashii markaan u noqdo waliba golayaashii baarlamaanka iyo dawladihii hooseba hal gabadh baa ku matasha baarlamaanka Somaliland 28 raga dawladihii hoosana 3 dumar ah jiray oo bariga foga oo taleexiyo ahaa buuhoodle iyo maxay laascaanood marka imika waxaad arkaysaa in goboladii waaweyn Somaliland aanay dumarku matalad dhabaanay ku haysanin aanay jirin kootadii haweenka oo sanadkii 2021 aanu waxyaabahan egste aan khibrada u leeyahay 2021 dumar u cararay baarlamaanka iyo golaha deegaankaba still haweenka saddexda dumar oo gobolada bariga foga oo ku soo baxay deegaanka baarlamaanka cid kuma soo bixin amina firid waxay ku soo gashay xubin banaysay oo marxuum dhintay bi soo buuxisay positionkiisi marka Somaliland waxaan oran karnaa gabi ahaanba haweenku way ka maran yihiin golayaasha baarlamaanka iyo dawladaha hoose iyo guurtidaba.
We have seen very bad examples of people in Somaliland, especially the men who are the gatekeepers of Somaliland's politics and decision makers, segregating men and young people as well from decision-making spheres. It's a bad thing. It's not a wise thing. It's not a good thing. When you actually ignore the contributions of 50% of more of Somaliland's population, you are, setting yourself up for failure. We do tend to blame not the culture. I wouldn't say the culture, because the culture allowed me to sit here today and talk to you and voice my opinions. The Constitution allowed me to sit here today and voice my opinions. It's when it comes to leadership roles that tradition and culture and things like that are actually used as an excuse. But these are driven by people, and whether they are the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, or the political leaders. It's something to blame for every man in Somaliland who believes that leadership is not something for women, who thinks that they can build something great for a nation without the contribution of half of the nation or more.
I think, if you look at the statistics, more than 50% of the voters of Somalia is women. And if you look at even the demography of Somaliland, women are more than men. So I think it's very simple. We are missing in our decision-making bodies, like the parliament, 50% of our society, which is women. So I think there are reasons and challenges and obstacles why women are not visible and active and in our political spectrum. And one of the major problems is the way our elections or our politics is actually structured, which is more kind of a clan-based electoral process, where clans are dominant than idealists.
The upcoming November 13 elections will be a defining moment in Somaliland's political history, combining presidential and party elections for the first time. This move aims to reduce voter fatigue and streamline the election process, yet managing two high-stakes elections simultaneously for the second time within 3 years introduces new challenges, such as heightened political competition and the complexities of dual campaigns. Success will test the Somaliland's ability to maintain order, fairness, and transparency and its intensified pressures. Kulmiye, the ruling party led by President Musa Bihi Abdi, Wadani, the main opposition party led by Abdurrahman Mohamed Abdullah Erro, and U'id, headed by Faisal Ali Warabi, are contesting the presidential elections this year. However, the primary race is between Kulmiye and Wadani. Kulmiye is campaigning on a platform of defending the country's territorial sovereignty and achieving international recognition, while Wadani's campaign focuses on promoting unity and harmony within Somalilanders.
codkiina waxaa siisaan cidda aad u hubtaan inay Somaliland horu marinayso, cidda hayn karaysa nabadgelyadeeda, cidda ka adag difaaceeda.
qodobkayga koowaad waxa weeye barnaamijyada siyaasiga ku jira inaannu midayno oo walaalayno shacbiga Somaliland.
Aside from the competing candidates, what do the ordinary civilians want from this election?
dhammaan markaa bulshada reer Somaliland waxaan ugu baaqayaa in nabadgelyo si mugli iyo miisaan leh oo ilaashadaan. doorashadana nin walba ururka hawdoono iyo xisbiga hawdoono ee uu arko dantiisa iyo danta dalka inay ku jirto inuu codeeyo.
marka wixii amni ah inaynu ilaalino natiijooyinkeena sugno marka laynoogu dhawaaqana bismillah kii horaaba waa keeni meel kale laynooga imanaayo marka alxamdulillah rabbil aalamiin.
Music plays a role in Somaliland's elections, with musicians releasing songs that reflect the ideology of their respective parties, while also exposing the weakness of their rival. These songs are not only entertainment, but also serve as a powerful tools for political messaging, energizing supporters and influencing opinion. Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland, renowned as the home of Somali music, remains at the heart of this vibrant musical tradition, where art and politics have long intertwined to shape public discourse. In a region marked by authoritarianism and political instability, Somaliland shines as a beacon of democratic hope. While Somalia has been in a conflict since the collapse of the Somali Republic, making it difficult to hold one-man, one-vote elections. Other regional states are governed by authoritarian regimes with leaders who have remained in power for decades. In contrast, the Somaliland demonstrates that democracy can thrive even in challenging environments. Its peaceful elections, freedom of expression, and commitment to civil liberties highlight that statehood and legitimacy are earned through good governance, not merely political recognition. Somaliland democracy offers a compelling message to the world. Freedom, accountability, and good governance are achievable, even without international recognition. The November 13 elections are more than a contest for political office. They are a reflection of the resilience and democratic values that define Somaliland's journey. For Somaliland, democracy and recognition are intertwined. Success in these elections would strengthen its call for international acknowledgement, inspiring other nations in the region to pursue democratic reforms. Somaliland's example demonstrates that recognition should not be based solely on geopolitical interests, but on the principle of good governance, legitimacy, and human rights.
Recognition comes from us. If we recognize how strong we are, how independent we are, how much freedoms we have, how we are hopeful for the future, how we are able to work together to achieve our goals, then I think everything else, including the foreign investment and also international recognition, will come.
And I think one of the advantages of having these kind of elections for the past 20 years is the ability of Somaliland to navigate the regional political dynamics of the Horn of Africa. We are being considered by the rest of the world, as well as the members of IGAD or African Union, that we play a very important role in terms of the political dispensation of the Horn and the East Africa, particularly in the Horn and then in the wider Horn of Africa. And we are not doing these elections, or we are not, as a Somalilanders, we are not doing this project of Somaliland becoming more rooted to a democratic culture because of our expectation is that one day we will get recognition because of what we are doing now. But I think the more Somaliland becomes stabilized, the more rules-based society becomes more stronger, and the more informal rules of the game, which is like more the more we move from traditional practices and informal rules and procedures that shapes our governance system, and the more we become more democratic, the sooner Somaliland gets its international recognition.
As the world watches, Somaliland sends a clear message. Democracy and freedom are the true pillars of sovereignty. With determination and hope, the nation forges ahead, proving that even without external validation, people committed to progress can shape their own destiny.